Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar stories and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Mathmachine and The Shark. Today is our 176th episode, and we're discussing the 2021 Nickelodeon movie, The Loud House Movie. So, let's get things started.
Crashing through the corridors, touching girls like ping pong balls, just to reach the bathroom on time. Leaping over the laundry piles, diapers you can smell for miles. Guy's gotta do what he can to survive. In the loud house, talk, dodge, push and shove. It's how we show our love. In the loud house, 1 point and girls wouldn't trade it for the world. Yeah, had to put that in. Anyways, math.
Even after watching this, I still don't believe that this movie exists because I refuse to believe that Nickelodeon will ever allow anything to be popular enough to get a movie besides SpongeBob.
That's true. That is very, very true. The Loud House is a show created by Chris Savino, who sucks and is a major creep, and that's all we're going to talk about him. Thankfully, he was fired from the show way before this movie came out, so that's it. The Loud House is about Lincoln Loud, a 10-year-old boy who has to live with his 10 other sisters and the wacky hijinks they get into. The show started off with a more slice-of-life tone, but as the show went on, more and more fantastical elements appeared in it. But it's good, because you always want every generation to have some kind of a family matters to it. A show that started off normal and sedate and then just went totally off the rails. It's always good to see that happen.
Yep. And for a show like Loud House, it's more times than not a compliment.
Since The Loud House is arguably Nickelodeon's biggest success since SpongeBob, a movie of it was inevitably going to happen. It was released direct to Netflix in 2021. The movie begins with a Nickelodeon Movies logo, which shows SpongeBob pulling down a lever which causes slime to go through a tube, creating the logo. And, yep, this is the best part of the movie right here because it's the part with SpongeBob in it. This 1 5-second shot of his hand is probably better than most everything else that's going to be in this movie.
I love that even when it's another cartoon that gets a movie, Nickelodeon has to shoehorn SpongeBob in somehow.
Indeed.
Yep, I was about to mention like that, Loud House was like this, second success after SpongeBob on Nickelodeon. It's like, hey, I know you're watching a Loud House movies, but remember, SpongeBob is king and he's the one presenting the movie.
Yep.
For the most part.
The movie begins with a slow zoom in to the town of Royal Woods, Michigan, where a younger version of Ludmillanon Sr. comes out of a movie theater. He dances along the street as passers-by waves at him. He stops and sees a younger version of his wife Rita, now working as a crossing guard. He dances towards her as she puts on lipstick. Then the pair both hold each other's arms and dance around. However, a bunch of children sweep her away as she smiles and waves, only for Lynn to check his pocket and see a love letter. We cut to them having a romantic dinner in a restaurant before swiveling around to see him proposing to her, then swiveling around again to show a wedding. And this is actually a really creative touch, how they do this sort of almost 3D camera movement to show that time is passing. It's something clever, and it's something that I have not seen in a lot of other animated movies, so props to this one for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of other movies that do this kind of thing, but it's one of those rare instances that you almost tend to never see it, especially in stuff like this. But when it happens, it's honestly pretty impressive.
We then see them moving into a new house, before it then cuts to Rita being pregnant. We see Rita having all of her children one after another in a photo snap format, with the girls being surprised that Lincoln is the first boy in the family, and having a small montage of them playing with him. After this, we then see the rest of the girls being born in a photo montage, before the final shot is the same one from the actual intro. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
This sequence of showing all the kids and then just the premise of the show entirely has always reminded me of a joke that's often misattributed to Groucho Marx. He was alleged to have a woman on who had basically this many kids. When asked why she had that many kids, she just said, "I love my husband," which Groucho was said to have responded, "Yeah, well, I love my cigar, but I take it out of my mouth every once in a while."
Groucho was the man. You can't help but love that man. The intro ends with the title card as Lily, the baby of the family, takes off her diaper and whips the title card to make it go from the Loud House to the Loud House movie as she shouts out, "Movie!" We then see the house in the dawn as Lincoln tells Lily that he woke her up at 6 in the morning to show her another lesson on how to survive in a big family. He tells her that today's lesson is all about their dad's breakfast burritos and how, now that she has teeth, she probably wants one for herself, but her sisters want them too. as you see a slide of all the other sisters reaching for the burritos.
Yeah, I very much adore Lily in this one. And especially here, where Lincoln is talking to her about the facts of life in the Loud House. It's definitely an adorable thing. Because, like, a lot of people, myself included, were under the impression that she was going to be the most annoying aspect of the entire show. But more times than not, she's the heart of the film. And I very much appreciate when a film does that sort of thing. It's endearing, and it definitely gives her a lot more credence than one would expect, especially for someone like Lincoln. Anyone else getting Good Luck Charlie vibes from this moment?
Yep, I can definitely see why. Lily runs towards the screen as Lincoln explains that it's you versus them at the table, showing another slide of all of the girls fighting. Lincoln tells her that he has a plan that is patent pending, much like our Dragoness Scale. He then says that he'll get the two of them to breakfast before the others do, with him ripping off his pajamas and her ripping off her diaper. After changing her, Lincoln says that nothing will beat them there, only to be stopped by all of the other sisters who were clearly waiting for him. Lori, the oldest sister, who is voiced by Catherine Tabor, who's probably best known as being Padme in Clone Wars, tells him that they all know it's Breakfast Burrito Saturday, as all of the girls cheer and run down the stairs.
Okay, after learning that, how much you want to bet she secretly has a Naboo blaster behind her back?
She doesn't hear as Lincoln lifts the carpet on them, causing all of the others to fall outside as he locks the door, before telling Lily it's all about having a backup plan. Lynn Sr. comes into the kitchen with a plate of burritos, dancing as he does so. He greets Lincoln and Lily before asking him where his sisters are, saying he heard them all out. Lincoln shrugs and prepares to eat, but the other girls then break in and begin fighting with each other for the food. Lincoln and Lily hide underneath the table, as Lily reveals she stole a burrito, with the two of them splitting it. The girls continue to fight with each other over breakfast before Rita, the mother, arrives. Blowing on a whistle, she tells Lola that she's late for a recital, and one thing to point out, Rita is voiced by Jill Taylor, which makes me think that this is just Karen in a human suit, and this whole franchise is just one of Plankton's plans. Once I get those breakfast burritos and those brats off my table, I will make everyone eat at the chum bucket, and I will rule the world! It turns out that all of the other girls that day also have contests to do, as Rita is in shock over this. Lena, the Valley Girl's sister, says that she only has a fashion show to do that day. Lena is voiced by Lillian Mooney, who actually is the daughter of Bill Mooney, who we previously saw as Will on Lost in Space.
Oh, sweet.
However, Liliana previously voiced another character. She was Panini on Chowder.
Oh, interesting.
But-
How long do you want to bet before she goes after Chowder next?
Rita and Lynn then panic over this, running back and forth as Lincoln and Lily emerge from the table, with Lincoln telling Lily that it's best to help your sisters rather than hide from them. He gives all the other girls everything they need as they all leave the house, but not before they almost forget the baby.
Something I like about this movie, at least at the start, is kind of feels like a normal episode. Like, they're giving the audience, especially those who are not familiar with the show, like, oh, this is like how the family normally acts in a normal day before the grand adventure that's completely different from the show. So it's like, have a taste of a normal episode before we move to the big movie.
It kind of does. It actually kind of does, not gonna lie. Go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, I very much like the start of this movie because in like the first moment, you pretty much get an understanding of all the characters and what they ultimately are, what they're like, and overall how they interact with the whole Loud House dynamic. And here, especially, it's further emphasized by what they do, what their lives are like. It all packs it up in this one first act, and I very much appreciate it doing that while also not, stuffing it completely to the gills as well and just making us have to process just everything. Like, it knows how to pace itself for the most part, and I very much appreciate how it does that, especially here.
As they all hop in the van and drive off, Lynn Sr. asks where they should go first. All of the girls argue with each other as Lincoln tells them to do Lori's first. We cut to Lori winning a golf competition as the other girls cheer. Obviously, what they did not show is that Wario got a triple bogey, and he got so upset he threw a giant boulder on top of his head. Lori asks for someone else to hold the trophy as Lincoln does so right in front of his face, Mike Wazowski style. The van then drives off to a fashion show where Lenny wins another award as the other girls cheer. We then cut to Luna's rock show where she plays guitar so loud it knocks people backwards, causing her to get an award. We then cut to Luann's comedy show where she says a variation of "Why did the chicken cross the road?" which is apparently so funny she gets a perfect score from all of the judges. Obviously, what they didn't show is Patrick is in the audience screaming, "Bring out the squirrel jokes!"
Nice. Also pictured in Luna's little scene is her girlfriend, Robin. Yeah, one of the Louds is lesbian, so yeah, props for being based.
Actually, considering everybody's getting an award, it's obvious why Patrick wasn't here. He was in the 90 version facing the crazy monkey man to get his award.
We then cut to a football game where Lynn Jr. wins a trophy, then to Lucy's Junior Mortician contest, where she also wins, which raises a lot of questions. Lola wins her pageant, and Lana helps a stock car win a race by being a pit crew member. Obviously, she got this job after retiring from being Lightning McQueen's pit crew chief, because he needed tires, the idiot, and he just went off. The montage ends with Lisa winning the science fair, as we cut to the family pulling up to Lynn's restaurant. The girls run out as the family all sigh in relief before thanking Lincoln, saying how he knows to keep the family smooth running. The girls are all stuffed in a booth in a restaurant chanting loudly as an old woman in a scooter drives past, saying, "Too loud if you ask me." Lynn Sr. and Rita pull out a smartphone, saying for all the girls to hold their trophies to get on the Wall of Fame. They all do so, knocking Lincoln out of the booth as he asks what about him. Others in the restaurant all note that the Loud sisters are there, and they run over to get pictures and autographs of them. Lincoln is nearly trampled before the old woman in the scooter runs into him, dragging him outside. Now locked out of the restaurant, Lincoln sees people praising his sisters and his parents saying how proud they are of them and gets saddened by this, because now he feels that he's left out of all this. As the girls talk about how popular they are, Lincoln sings a song about how he is left out and wants to find a place to fit in as he wanders the streets. This song has quite a notable amount of auto-tune in it, as Lincoln continues to sing about how he wants to be recognized as being special, but no one seems to think that he is.
Yeah, that's honestly the overall major problem of the show. They like to honestly put Lincoln down more times than not and make him out to be the problem when, in all honesty, there are other things that are a major problem than he is. Like, a friend of mine, Charvoon, pointed this out, and I honestly kind of agree with him. More times than not in this show, they just make it where he has to do everything he can to be back in the limelight as much as he can, just to be noticed, rectify his problems, and in the end, it's kind of on everyone else. He ends up apologizing, but he honestly doesn't need or have to, because at the end of the day, it's kind of on everyone else, not him. But I think we all know the bigger culprits here, the writers of the show. Anyways, go ahead, Math.
The initial song that this starts with in the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, okay, it's whatever. I assumed that it was just for the introduction itself. As soon as Lincoln's singing started, I felt a wash of pain just roll over me because, oh, it's one of these movies. I'm in for it.
Yeah, the musical numbers in this movie are definitely not the best part, let's say. Go ahead, Shark.
Yeah, and it's also the fact that unlike other shows that got movies like, let's say, My Little Pony and all stuff, Loud House, the show was never a musical. Like, honestly, outside of some scenes with Luna and some specials, characters don't really sing, so making your non-musical show into a musical movie, it's probably not the smartest move.
Funny you say that, because there is one legit musical episode that actually does work and proves that the Louds are capable of singing, but there aren't really many songs that really emphasize that. There is one, which we'll cover later, but at the end of the day, yeah, I kind of have to agree. This is not the strongest the Louds have been musical-wise.
It's one of those things that you could really tell they tried making it theatrical with the musical numbers, but I don't know if they were necessarily prepared for it. The song ends with Lincoln placing his head on a desk as it's revealed that he's at his friend Clyde's house, Clyde tells him that he thinks he's special, as Lincoln says that's because they're best friends. Lincoln tells him to name one single thing that makes him special, as Clyde says 4. He's read every single superhero comic twice, he's the 5th best junior magician in town, he wrote a good history report, and he can sing, though judges are out on that last one, just even how the song was. Lincoln laments always being in his sister's shadows, as Clyde gives Lincoln some cream puffs. As Lincoln eats it, he begins to weep as he devours it. Clyde is worried that he put too much or too little cinnamon in it, as Lincoln weeps that everybody is good at something but him. We actually hear Clyde's thoughts as he realizes how he made everything worse, with him saying he's not that good at baking. Lincoln, meanwhile, walks over to the endless amount of baking awards he has, as Clyde says that baking is in his blood, as his family originates from France, with several of his family members being bakers. Lincoln gets an idea at this as he leaves, before coming to take the rest of the cream puffs. We cut to the Loud house at night as Rita tells the girls to go to bed, before telling them that the last one to go to bed has to take out the trash for a whole month. We cut to the girls and the parents all brushing their teeth as Lincoln arrives, with the girls mocking him for having to take out the trash for a month. Lincoln tries asking his parents where their origins are, as they say they don't know, with Lincoln saying if they knew, they could go on vacation and meet their relatives. He asks his dad where his family is from, as Lisa says all they need is a DNA sample. Lynn Sr. is scared of needles, as Lisa laughs and says they don't need needles in an evil tone. We cut to Lynn Sr. in a centrifuge being spun around as he screams. Obviously, Lisa got this idea from doing the same to Homer Simpson earlier.
I honestly love Lisa. Out of everyone, Lisa is personally my favorite of the Loud sisters. She's not only voiced by the same person who did Haru from Beastars, like she honestly is in the same vein as someone like Senku from Dr. Stone. She's smart, but she has a human element to her that makes her just the most adorable and adorable thing at the same time. And moments like this where she's like, "Pshaw, father. Needles are for amateurs." Like, just sometimes I forget that she's still like 4 years old and yet somehow the most intelligent being on the planet to an extent. Words fail me. I honestly think Lisa Loud is the best of the Loud family.
You can definitely tell, like I said, they had a really great voice cast for the show in general. Lynn Sr. is then dunked in a fish tank over and over, as Rita comments, "Glad I know where I'm from," as Lynn Sr. is then tickled with a bunch of giant hands. He then collapses on the ground as Lisa takes a drool sample from him. Lincoln asks why she couldn't have just made him spit in a cup, as Lisa says, "There's a scientific word for that. Boring."
Love Lisa Loud. Like moments like this where she's just like goes through all this fantastical shit a la fucking Dexter's Laboratory just to collect the spit sample, and at the end of the day she just spits stuff like that. There's a scientific word for that. Boring.
We then cut to Lynn Sr. waking up and panicking about more experiments, but Lisa tells him not to worry because she knows that they are, quote, from a place the Romans called Caledonia, with the rest of the Louds being confused at this. She then explains that today it is known as Scotland. The sisters are amazed at this, as Rita notes how expensive it would be to go there. Lynn Sr. tells her that they always have a way on taking vacations and making it work, as the girls all plead, only for Rita to agree that they'll go. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, we're having a movie set in Scotland. Okay, so we're raiding Loch Ness Monster again, huh?
Nope.
Like I say, surprisingly, no. This is the first time, I think, ever we have done something set in Scotland and there is not only no Nessie, not even a hint of Nessie. But there is another good female reptilian that we'll talk about in a little bit. They all look to their vacation funds, but there's only a single coin in there, as they wonder where the rest of the money went. It turns out that Lola used it to make her teeth brighter, as Luna notes that, no bucks, no trip. But Lincoln has an idea, telling them all to get adventurous. We then get another song, as we see the Louds arrive at an airport with F-class tickets, to which we cut to them literally in the cargo hold of an airplane. Lincoln opens the hold and hands them all parachutes, as they then land and drive to mainland Europe, then take a hot air balloon to the middle of the ocean, where they then all squeeze inside of a submarine. The montage ends with the submarines emerging with some very noticeable CGI. Like for 2021, I don't know what the budget of this was, but some shots in this movie are surprisingly amateurish, which really did shock me.
I might not be a vehicle expert and all, but I kinda think that going into a submarine will be more expensive than taking a plane.
That is true. That is very, very true.
I will admit that while I'm used to shows like Loud House and other 2D shows utilizing 3D this way, is like I'm used to this sort of thing where the CG kind of looks a little odd. But here, I can give it a pass because they at least have it set to the overall atmosphere and style that the show is in. And it's for that reason I can give pretty much most of this a pass. But yeah, even I can admit that sometimes there are some moments that are more noticeable than others.
Lynn Sr. then begins speaking with a Scottish accent and reveals he has a kilt on, much to the disgust of all of his kids. Lori calls her boyfriend Bobby, as he says that, "Don't worry, babe, I sent you a text message every hour on the hour to hear from you." And I guess we know that Bobby's theme song should be Every Breath You Take.
Yep.
Nice.
Lori tries telling him that she loves being in Scotland, but her bad connection breaks her up. Back in Bobby's place, he hears "I love Scott" breaking up, ew, causing him to think that she's breaking up with him. Bobby's sister tells him not to just sit there and take it, as he agrees, causing him to ride his bike out. He then realizes, wait, you can't ride a bike to Scotland. Not without your helmet! And runs back for his helmet, then rides out, which we do get payoff to this, by the way.
Yeah, we do, but not gonna lie, honestly, the Casa Grande's movie should have just been exploring Bobby's whole side plot about riding to Scotland just to meet Lori and win her back, see him interact with Bikini Bottom dwellers, and just exchange the bike that he was using for like one of the paddle bikes just to get to the submarine. Like, I'm not saying the Casa Grande's movie was bad, but imagine what could have been, especially with those, you know?
That riding the bike to Scotland joke reminds me of one of my favorite Boy Meets World jokes. Eric, the older brother, was running away, and he said that he was going to run away to Europe, specifically to Paris. And the person that found him at a bus station because, oh, Eric Matthews, Europe, Paris, bus.
Lincoln then asks where they can find some louds, then goes up to a fisherman and asks him if he knows of any members of their family. The fisherman screams, "Louds, louds, louds," and runs off into the distance. The family are surprised at this before they walk through the town as a bunch of sheep run by. Lisa says, "Quaint, yet illogical, like that door over there," as she points to a door that is up above the ground. A woman steps out of it as Angus helps her with a ladder to get down. The woman thanks him, saying how she hopes someone someday will help them fix the town, as Angus replies, "One can only hope, ma'am." Angus is voiced by David Tennant, who is best known for his iconic science fiction role. The main villain in Morbius. Oh yeah, and something called Doctor Who and Scrooge McDuck.
The moment David Tennant came in, I knew this movie was at least going to be saved in that regard. Like, anything with David Tennant in it is bound to be gold. Also, you got it wrong there, laddie. He was shouting, "Loads! Loads! Loads!" You really got to accent the O in the accent, eh?
Yeah, you know David Tennant did Scrooge McDuck because he's effectively doing that voice here for Angus, including saying the line at one point, "Bless me bagpipe," to the point where I'm like, how did Disney not sue this? What the hell?
Yeah, that's actually his catchphrase in this too. It's like they're leaning up so close to the edge of him just being Scrooge McDuck. It's crazy.
I mean, it helps he's a natural Scot, so that helps.
Lisa then snarks that somebody failed door-making class, as Lincoln sees a sign that's saying that they could use it to get around, but all the arrows are all pointed in different directions, making it confusing. Someone drives around and around and around the roundabout, having no way of knowing where they're going, and I'm sorry, this is just a Simpsons joke. A man rings a fallen bell, saying, 9 o'clock and all is well, before he then is attacked by two birds. Lynn Sr. notes that they have both a fish shop and a chip shop, as the two owners argue with each other before one yells at the other that, "You married me, didn't ya?" And a pretty good gag. The family walk through the town as Lena literally is calling everybody Scott because they're in Scotland.
As much as for many, Lenny is a feast or famine kind of character, I'm sorry, I love her. Bless her scatterbrained, misguided heart more times than not.
She then bumps into a young man holding tartans before helping him up, calling him Scott, which is his real name. They seem to instantly connect with each other, as Scott is voiced by Billy Boyd, best known for being Pippin in Lord of the Rings. Obviously, we know what's going to happen next. Gandalf is going to show up. "Fool of a Loud, throw yourself in next time and do us better." Lenny leaves as the fisherman then arrives to Angus, telling him that the Louds have arrived. Angus is shocked as the entire town comes out to see the Louds, with Angus asking if it's really them. The Loud House agrees as the town cheers, saying they have returned to Loch Loud. We then get another musical number, This Town is Made for You, where Angus explains that the Loud family ruled this land for many years, then disappeared, to which the town fell apart, but everyone is very happy they have returned. He brings them to a castle, where he sings that they have been waiting for them there, which also ends up waking up Morag, the main villain of the film, from her bath. Morag is a Scotswoman who is the main caretaker of the castle, and her design is extremely thick, to an almost comical degree. We're first shown her only wearing a towel, and listen this way, her body is so rotund. I thought she was going to turn into a dragon at some point in this movie, because it was a missed opportunity for someone with this figure to not be that huge, you know?
Allow me to explain how bad the songs are in this movie. The most terrifying words you're going to hear in our recap of it are, we then get another musical number.
Coming back to Morag, if there was ever a Nickelodeon villain that would actually be hated for both the right and the wrong reasons, it had to be this. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the Loud House villains in this movie are not that great, but even they had some redeeming qualities to them. And okay, let's be fair, she does too. All two of them, her figure and the fact she pretty much is one of the only Loud House villains to achieve her goal. But yeah, that doesn't really say much when it comes to a gal who basically just, her main motivation is just, she wants peace and quiet, and she just wants nobody to freaking disturb her, which, real goals.
The best way to describe her backside and comparison will be, is she pregnant with an alien jellyfish as well?
Nice.
Those who get the reference will know what I'm talking about.
She's in shock over the Louds being there, as she leaves with the song ending as Angus arrives at the door. Lenny says, "For You sure is a funny name for a town," as Rita asks who Angus is. After Angus introduces himself, he opens the door as the family all enter the castle, in amazement over how huge it is. Morag quickly gets dressed and runs downstairs as Angus hugs her, saying that after 400 years, the Louds have finally returned to Scotland. She snarks that all of Scotland heard your song, then hisses at him to put her down. Angus explains that she is the caretaker, as Lola tosses the woman her suitcase, only for Morag to fume at this. Angus is so happy that they have returned, as Rita notes that it's only for a week, as Angus thought that they'd stay here forever. Obviously, what happens is they do decide to stay there forever, but when the crops fail Loch Loud, well, that's when the events of the Wickermans start to happen.
Nice. I honestly kind of want to see Lincoln, or at least Morag, go through that kind of thing at least once in this movie.
There are a few times I've identified with a very obvious villain quite as much as when Morag grumbled, "Yes, I heard the song."
Fair enough.
Very much so. Morag is relieved at this, saying how she could help them find accommodation in the village. Angus refuses, saying that the Louds should live in the castle. Morag fumes again before turning around and saying how it's a marvelous idea, as all of the Louds hug her. Morag tells Lynn Sr., hand off the antiques, as he touches a suit of armor, only for it to completely fall apart as he nervously says, "I found it like that." Lincoln asks all about their ancestors, as Angus shows them a portrait of the ancient Loud family, who looks exactly like them. I do like Lenny's line of, "When did we pose for this?" being a cute one. Morag tries telling herself that this is only for a week, as all of the girls run upstairs, with Morag chasing after them and tripping. Lola remarks how it's so hard to find good help these days. As Morag then runs after the family, Lincoln continues to stare at the portrait, with him asking Angus if all of the sisters were special. Angus agrees, but then begins to reveal something else. Before he can say it, his sisters all call him as he runs off. After Lincoln runs upstairs, all of the sisters reveal that they finally have their own bedroom, and they all show them off for Lincoln, taking him to each room, and culminating in Lynn Jr. saying how they each have their own bathroom, with the family really being amazed at this. Lincoln then lands near Angus, as he tells the boy that the white-haired boy in the portrait was the Duke, the most important boy in the family. He then gives Lincoln the Duke's room, which is the largest in the castle and is surrounded by portraits of him everywhere. Lincoln is so amazed at this, with him running around the room and looking at every portrait, as two of Lincoln's sisters arrives. He tells them that the boy was the Duke, but they are unfazed at this, asking Angus, "What's with all the dragon stuff?" as Angus leaves to show them. Lincoln sees the Duke's crown as he is in awe over it. We then cut to outside, where Angus tells Lynn Jr. and Lana that dragons are part of their history, as Lana says that dragons are real. Lynn Jr. doesn't believe her, as Angus says that dragons are as real as the tartan in my kilt, and then tells them that their ancestors had a dragon, and once they left, she did too. He then brings them past a waterfall, and sadly, no, they do not find Lugia behind the waterfall, although that would have been amazing. He then shows them a dragon egg, saying how he hoped not only the Louds would come back, but the dragons would come back too. He looks around the egg to see that it hatched, and wonders where the dragoness is before she attacks him. The baby dragoness is absolutely adorable, as it currently is barking and panting at him, and that's the interesting thing. This is one of the few times we see a full, shall we say, life cycle for a dragoness in any sort of media piece, and I'm really shocked it took Loud House the movie to give us that, but pretty cool.
This dragon is the best thing about this movie. Like, she doesn't get that many moments in this film, but the ones she does are just adorable, and you immediately feel for this dragon. Like, she just came into the world, and already she's part of something that she, by all means, has every right to not be excited about. She just came into the world, so she's got people like the Louds, so she has every right to be as happy as she ultimately is.
So, knowing going in that we were going to be talking about a dragon, I was like, okay, so because this is based on what is normally a slice of life show, we're probably going to see this in the last like 10-15 minutes. We're only a third of the way through the runtime, and suddenly the dragon appears. I'm actually kind of impressed. I did not think this would be happening this early.
Same here.
Also, on what Angron said, wow, the dragon being the best part of the movie and all of their scenes being the best moments in the movie? That has never happened in this podcast before.
The girls ask what to name it, as Lily says Layla, giving the dragoness her name. We then cut to inside the castle, as the rest of the family all cool over Layla, begging Rita to let them keep it. She agrees, but tells them that they have to take care of it as they all cheer. How this show basically started out as, "Man, I have 10 sisters in one house. Isn't that crazy?" And now they have a pet dragon. Sadly, they do not keep it throughout the end of the movie, but regardless, it's just one of those things where you have to sit back and it's like, oh, okay then.
I mean, by all intents, she's still a member of the Loud family, so that's definitely going to make family reunions interesting, to say the least, if they ever remember to invite her. But yeah, I very much dedicate her as a member of the Loud family, hands down.
I would say I have not seen a what was relatively grounded slice of life show jump the shark so much since Happy Days, but I kind of forget what happened there. Could someone remind me, please?
Lincoln then shows up wearing the Duke's outfit. As Rita asks what he's doing, Lincoln says, "Duking," as two of the sisters say, "Right in the hallway? We have bathrooms for that now," which, thank you for that movie, that was definitely needed. However, as Lincoln struts down the stairs, all of the sisters then begin laughing at him, making fun of him for how silly he looks, as Lincoln is confused at the reaction. Layla then nuzzles him, as he then says, "What the what?" Obviously, we then cut to Gumball Watterson calling his lawyers, as that's his catchphrase.
Nice. First Scrooge, now Gumball. By the end of this, they're going to have at least 10 or 20 different lawyers coming to their freaking lock.
Lincoln quips that he's glad that somebody recognizes royalty, then tells the others to expect big things from him, before his father slams the door in his face. Lynn Sr. says that he made dinner with everything in the castle, joking how he went from garlic to Gaelic, as we then see a huge feast there. The family all runs in, everyone taking food, as Morag grunts and groans at this, telling Angus that this is all his fault. Layla leaps onto the table and eats a whole chicken, splattering Morag with sauce as Angus says how both the Louds and the dragons are back as she fumes. Lily takes a breakfast burrito and begins to eat it, before splitting it with Layla, causing the dragoness to get slightly larger. The family all talk about how this is such a great idea, as Lincoln asks Angus how he can end up becoming the Duke, saying how alike they are as Morag is shocked at this. Lily steals more burritos from a plate and feeds them all to Layla, causing the dragoness to get thrice as large as she once was, to the point where the dragoness can't hide under the table anymore, which is actually a pretty cute idea. I'm not gonna lie, they actually did logical idea, and they actually made it work in this, which for this movie definitely means a lot. Angus tells Lincoln that becoming the Duke is not as simple, as Morag tells him to listen to Angus. Angus says that one can end up becoming the Duke by making life better for the people and our village. Lincoln says that he'll do it tomorrow as Morag glares evilly at him. We then cut to outside, where Morag yells at Angus for telling him about being the Duke. Angus says that the people would love a new Duke, as Morag mocks him, saying how she doesn't care about the peasants. Angus tells her that the peasants are their neighbors, as Morag rants about being stuck with the Loud family, for explaining how my ancestors have cared for this castle in peace and quiet ever since they drove away, before then correcting herself to how the Louds sailed away forever, and laments having to stay in his hovel. I do like this gag that his hovel turns out to be a really nice looking guest house, but because it's not the castle, to her it's garbage.
Like, seriously, your standards baffle me, Morag. Like, if this is a hovel, I would honestly hate to see something like a shed or a hut.
Angus offers to show her around, as Morag just throws a pillow in his face and slams the door shut. We then pan down to the castle as Lucy summons a ghost with her gothic powers, as the windows open and wind swirls all around, as Lucy grins. Lucy then brings all the others to the foyer, where she introduces them to Lucille Loud, her identical ancestor who greets them. Lynn Sr. runs around and faints as Lucille floats her way past all of them, with Rita waking her husband up.
I think this is like another like perfect comparison of how the show became more fantasy as it went on, because in the earlier episodes, I think in the Halloween one, it was one of those typical that they think there's a ghost, but then there's like an explanation that no, the TV was turning on its own because of this. And then the episode ends with the typical, oh, or was it really false? Now we're just seeing ghosts, like, here's a ghost.
Yeah, exactly. It really is weird.
Yeah, meanwhile, Mario and Luigi in the back. Mario, should I get the poltergeist ready? Or no, it's one of the good ghosts. If it were a boo, I think we would have a bit more problems. But since it's not, Oh, okay, that makes sense. Just pots it up and just heads off to take care of the plumbing.
Rita manages to wake up Lynn Sr., tells him how he wanted to meet relatives, as he says, yeah, but not creepy ghosts, as Lucille says, I heard that, as Lynn Sr. screams, which, funny to point out, his scream is exactly the same as Stu Pickle's scream, which makes me just think that they summoned the ghost because the ghost wants chocolate pudding at 3 in the morning.
At least it's not Timmy's dad scream.
We then cut to the next day, as Morag holds up a jockstrap with a disgusted expression on her face. Lincoln shows up in his Duke outfit and asks if the jockstrap belongs to Lincoln, as he says no. Morag walks up to the portrait of her ancestor and notes how while she drove away the Loud family once, they have returned, and she would be so disappointed. The rest of the family arrive and begin creating various messes, causing Morag to increasingly say that it's only for a week, over and over again, getting louder and more annoyed each time. Lincoln leaves, telling Angus to have Morag polish the crown as he then sings a song. Lincoln walks around Loch Loud, changing things to suit his taste, like replacing comic books with his favorites, replacing all the food with breakfast burritos, and trying to help people, but in kind of a half-assed sort of way. However, the second verse is Angus telling him how he has to do things the proper way to help others, and he can't do just whatever he wants, but he also has to do it for the good of the loch as well, which, I'm gonna be honest, is actually kind of a breath of fresh air, because I said this song literally to just be the most obnoxious I want song out there, but no, they actually subverted my expectation with the second verse, where Lincoln actually learns a lesson with a song. It's like, it's amazing that an animated movie would do that nowadays.
Little bit of devil's advocate with that. Lincoln has learned this sort of lesson in the past multiple times. Here, yeah, it's definitely impactful. It's lessened a bit by some of the previous stuff that's happened, but I still definitely agree with you on this one. But second of all, yeah, I like the dynamic of Angus and Lincoln here. Angus is a moral center for the Loud. He pretty much has his place serving, but he does not see it as a bane in any way, shape, or form. He says it with such wisdom and guidance and just overall experience, like he's been running the place for years, and I very much appreciate that.
Lincoln then gets the point and begins helping others in the right way, as the towns sing how he's going to be the Duke. Lincoln asks the townsfolk if he did good as they all cheer, with him asking how he can be official. One of the townsfolk says that they need a coronation, as Morag arrives, saying how Loch Loud will have a new Duke for a week, and in a joke that actually got a good laugh out of me, the citizens are all instantly disgusted by this, with one of them saying, "I danced around for a tourist?" as they all just leave in absolute disgust. It kind of reminded me of the "For He's a Jolly Good Rookie" bit in SpongeBob, where they just leave in disgust after the song's over. Angus tells Lincoln that their people want him as the Duke, but he still has to convince his family to move to Scotland. We cut to Lincoln putting on his blue convincing suit to convince his family to live in Loch Loud. We then cut to him showing his family a slideshow of Scotland, explaining how they went on vacation to find their ancestors, but then ended up finding themselves. He says that their vacation will be over soon, as Lynn Sr. screams at this, before Lincoln suggests that they seize their destiny and move to Scotland forever. The slideshow ends with a shot with Lily with the "deal with it" sunglasses on, which that meme was almost 10 years old when this came out. It's like, come on, do better.
It definitely felt obvious, but when it was Lily doing it to help Lincoln out trying to convince his family, like, can you really fault them for like doing something like that when Lily looked that good in that sort of thing?
I'll tell you, if the Duke thing doesn't work out, from the way that Lincoln presented the sales pitch, he's got a great career as a multi-level marketing salesman.
Lynn Sr. is the only one convinced, as the sisters say that he's really doing it just to be Duke, and I'll throw pillows and boo at him. Lincoln tells them that things would be better for all of them, as the others remark how they have lives and experiences back home. Lincoln says how, "I guess we'll go home to our house that only has one bathroom in it," and I do love this bit, how Rita the mom instantly says, "We're moving right away," as all of the girls cheer. That actually got a good laugh at me, just with how it was timed.
Yeah, I love that bit as well. Like, the one bathroom thing was such a problem back in Royal Woods and throughout the entire series that the moment she hears that this place has one bathroom for each of the Loud, she is not ready to go back to that life, especially having to fight for just one bathroom.
We then cut to trumpeters playing as Lincoln's coronation ceremony is about to begin. Lincoln shows himself off as everybody cheers, with both Angus and Morag arrives, with Angus being excited but Morag being upset. Morag explains that for 4 centuries, Loch Loud has been without a duke since the previous Louds all left, with Lucille hearing this and being appalled as she flies off. Morag continues the ceremony as Angus gives him the royal scepter, while Morag prepares herself to place the crown on Lincoln's head, officially making him Duke, but she can't bring herself to do it, sputtering each and every time. Angus pushes the crown on his head as she bitterly says that he is the new Duke of Loch Loud, as everyone cheers. We then get a variation of the theme song, which instead of being the Loud House, is now the Loud Castle. In the song, we actually see that Layla has already grown to a fully adult dragoness, which is another really nice touch there, that we don't actually see it, but we do see it in a montage, and it is pretty clever, not gonna lie. After the theme song ends, Lincoln is taking a bath, telling both Angus and Morag just how great it is to be here. Morag takes a deep breath and leaves the castle, then walks through the town and past all other sorts of Scottish landscapes before she goes by a cliff. When she's at the cliff's edge, she screams how she hates the Louds at the top of her lungs, then pants wildly. Morag then goes by a nearby tree and begins digging something out from it as we cut back to the castle. Lucille tells Lucy how it's a horrible day out and how she wishes they could go out. She then says how they have more important things to discuss as Lucy asks, "Our bond of eternal sadness?" Lucille says no, and that Morag was wrong because the family did want to return to Loch Loud, as we then get a flashback. We see the 1600s versions of the Loud family, as they all say how they miss their laboratory, their coffin, and Scott from Scotland. So nice to see that Lainey was always not the brightest of the bunch. 1600s Rita sees their home and cheers, as the Duke notes that Lolo is back to lead them there. The dragoness from the 1600s is named Lolo, and I hope she has a male counterpart named Lala, and all they do is push blocks all day.
Especially against a certain pink puffball. But going back to the castle version of the Loud House opening, I honestly love that throughout Lena is there just being part of the family and like so spacious, and everyone is just adjusting to the castle life, and she's just vibing with everyone. Like, again, I wholeheartedly think that Lena is 100% a member of the Louds, and honestly should kind of remain that way. She is just too adorable and just fits in.
Lolo then smiles at them, before her eyes suddenly turn purple and she roars at them, flapping her wings to prevent the ship from coming in. Lucille says that the dragon has forbidden them from coming home, as the dragon is the protector of the lock and the Duke's closest friend, until it deems the Duke worthy no more. The Duke wonders how this could be, as the dragoness shoots fire at him. Lucille says that fate has been decided for him, as the Duke realizes that they are right, telling the ship to turn around, as he gives the crown to the dragoness and the boat sails away, never to return. Lucy notes how that's sad, but wonders why Morag would lie like that, as Lucille realizes that Aggie, their caretaker back then, kept a diary of everything in the castle. We then cut to Morag digging the journal out before laughing in triumph. She monologues how her ancestor rid the castles of the Louds, and flips through pages, showing the dragon as normal, then showing her with a stone and being hypnotized by it, then finds the stone herself. And at this moment, I had to actually pause this and realize something. Isn't this literally just ripping off How to Train Your Dragon 2?
In that one, they had a whole-ass giant dragon that could control other dragons. Here, it's just a stone. Not only is this somewhat original and it's specific towards one dragon, but this was also the moment where all pretense of her becoming a dragon kind of just dropped, and she ultimately became the worst character in the movie, for very valid reasons that we're going to get to in a bit, but for now, stay tuned.
Morag laughs evilly as we flash back to the past, where Lolo returns to the stone and Aggie laughs evilly, removing the stone as she takes out the crown. Lolo, now out of her brainwashing, looks saddened by this as Aggie's laughter transitions to Morag. Morag says, "You got rid of your Duke, and I shall be rid of mine." We then cut to the castle, where Lincoln calls Clyde, looking worried about something. Clyde asks how Lincoln is doing, as Lincoln explains that they're in Loch Loud and he's a Duke now, as Clyde is excited. Morag sees at this, as Lincoln explains how he's not stuck in his sister's shadows anymore. Morag hears this and gets an idea, as Clyde asks how he'll be Duke back home, as Lincoln admits that they moved to Scotland. Clyde appears to take it well, saying how awesome it is and how he'll have to visit Scotland one day. However, as soon as Lincoln hangs up, Clyde begins to weep into a welcome home cake that he made for Lincoln. Morag again realizes that Lincoln's weak point are his sisters, and walks off, starting her villainous song, "The Duchess I Must Be." The song is basically all about how Morag will get rid of the Louds to have some peace and quiet, showing her gaining the crown and wearing a duchess's dress. We have scenes of Aggie interspersed with Morag as they appear to sing together. She then sings about how she'll break the town's hearts as they love Lincoln, but she doesn't care. Then get a little bit of a break session where she wonders if what she's doing is a good idea to kick out the Loud family, as she then sings no. Now, there's a shot in this where she rises up, and it actually looks like wings and a tail are coming out of her. And when I say this hyped me up so much, only for them to pull the rug out, that actually really bugged me, because it actually looked like they were doing a dragoness transformation sequence, but nope, just a fake out.
Yeah, again, they were building that up so much, and it could have easily been something like Tom and Jerry or Bartok the Magnificent, something we're all familiar with, but they just didn't do it. And also a bit of a major problem for me in this song, when she's at the spot where, like, is it so wrong to want peace and quiet? It feels like they skipped a line or something, and that part just felt very rushed. That doesn't really speak for the entire movie, but that part in particular just, yeah, it rubbed me the wrong way. to say the least.
I've come to the point where I realize that this movie is trying to imitate Disney movies with its Broadway style musical thing. The issue is the Disney movie it's imitating is Wish, especially with "This Is the Thanks I Get" style villain song.
Yes. Like I say, this was definitely the worst song in the movie because, I'm sorry, Morag's voice actress, she's trying to sell the song, but it just does not sound good. I'm sorry.
I mean, compared to the other songs, it actually is a step above, save for one. Do have to agree that this song isn't completely bad, but it's one of those songs that definitely has something that just keeps it from being among the echelons of something different.
Still better than the Queen of the Night songs in the Magic Flute.
True. After she sings the song and closes the book, she bumps into Lucy, then Lucille's ghost. Lucille's ghost confronts Morag, saying how she lied by saying that the Louds sailed away forever when it's not true, then demands the journal. Morag lies, saying that she never knew Aggie even kept a journal, as she hides it under her dress, with her being so huge back there that the book doesn't even appear. The parents say that they'll be watching her as Morag then runs off.
Right there is more proof of why they should have gone with the dragon transformation plot. I mean, plot in both ways.
She then pulls out the journal, then sees Luna playing the bagpipes as Morag applauds her. The villain asks Luna why she doesn't show the rest of the town her skills, saying that her ancestors all had amazing talents, and the people would love to return to that with the current Loud sisters, as Luna says that she's in. We then get a montage of all of the sisters telling each other about their idea, with Lenny making a dress with Scott. Their dress is accidentally sewn together as the pair laugh at this, and what's so weird about this is how little Scott is used, considering the fact that they cast Billy Boyd in this movie. I mean, this guy could sing, he can act, he's a great character actor, and they give him literally maybe 3 lines in the whole movie. Not Second Breakfast or 11 C's or Tea or anything. We then cut to Lincoln performing sleight of hand that somewhat fails, because Lily ends up doing the actual sleight of hand bit too late. Angus enjoys the trick, but then says that it's time for him to go and take care of the lock to make everybody happy. They begin with Lincoln sweeping the chimneys, as it turns out he has to clean every single one, and man, they don't even let him sing Step in Time. I think he better rethink this whole being the Duke of Loch Loud thing if I were him. A poster then hits Lincoln in the face, as he sees that it's for his sisters, as he yells, "Oh no, not again!" and runs off, as Angus asks what's wrong. Lincoln goes into the center of the town, as he sees all of the sisters performing their acts, with him being trampled by a crowd yet again. Luan is playing with her ventriloquist dummy Mr. Coconuts, and the reason I bring this up is because Mr. Coconuts is really creepy. This is such a freaky looking ventriloquist doll. He looks like a different form Chucky would take. I expect her to go, "Hey, Mr. Coconuts, why did the chicken cross the road?"
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut! I'll teach you to fuck with me!
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely picture that, but honestly, compared to most creepy ventriloquist dummies out there, Mr. Chuckles is alright. Close to being Slappy levels of Uncanny Valley, but in a show like this, he gets a pass.
Morag arrives and helps Lincoln up as we cut to them in the castle. Lincoln laments how he is supposed to be the special one, as Morag says that there must be something they could do to put a spotlight on the Duke, pointing to a painting of the original Duke riding on Lolo. He sees the portrait and then suggests that he could ride his dragoness to make him the best Loud there ever was. Morag agrees, then lets out an evil laugh as we see a 3-panel shot of Lincoln with Layla and Morag preparing the scepter. We then cut to Lincoln flying around on Layla's back as he soars through the air, taking attention away from all of his other sisters. Using a fire extinguisher, he manages to draw his face in the air as Morag puts the stone in the scepter, laughing how the real fun will begin now. Layla instantly becomes possessed and begins flying around on Morag's will, with Lincoln unable to control the dragoness as she smashes her way through the buildings. And the way this is animated really reminded me of Battle of the 5 Armies at the beginning of that movie with Smaug's Rampage. It really makes me wonder if that was an intentional reference. She manages to destroy both the bell, the bridge, and the fish and chip shops, the latter by the bell crushing both of them. The townsfolk all turn on Lincoln as he runs off crying, with the family walking off as well. Morag removes the stone, causing Layla to become confused over what she's doing there and flying off as well. We cut back to the waterfall, where Layla is saddened over what she did, as Morag mockingly says Layla did what she had to do, and literally starts feeding the dragoness garbage. So, real nice owner right there. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, this is where Morag ultimately becomes the worst character of the movie. And this is where I ultimately started to feel really sorry for Layla. Like, she had just come into this world. She had grown up significantly by this point. But the fact that she's being fed this by one of the worst characters in the movie just to get back at a family who just came there to discover their roots, rule over an entire nation. Like, wow, is peace and quiet really worth treating an honorary member of the Loud family like Layla in that way? Like, literally feeding her garbage? Like, there's wanting peace and quiet, and then there's doing this just to get that. That is just something that is not cool whatsoever.
As Layla continues to get larger and larger as Morag laughs evilly, we then cut to the castle, where Angus is trying to comfort Lincoln by telling him that everybody has a bad day. Lincoln says that, I had the worst day ever because I'm the worst Duke ever. The rest of his family then arrive and attempts to comfort him, as Lola says that everyone ends up blowing it sometimes and that tomorrow the entire family will help him rebuild the town. Angus explains how the villagers don't hold a grudge as the townsfolk all march on the castle, screaming, Duke, go home, over and over again. Angus nervously says that they're blowing off steam, as Lincoln walks away, saying how the townsfolk are right. He takes off the crown and places it on the pedestal and begins sobbing, saying how he doesn't deserve to be a duke and how they should all go home. We then cut to the ship sailing away, as the family watches Loch Loud disappear. Lincoln walks away sadly as we cut back to the castle, where Morag watches all of this and laughs evilly. Morag burns the book, as Lucille takes the ghost book from the fire and realizes that Aggie betrayed them. We cut to the royal family, where Morag says that the Louds are gone forever again, and everyone cheers. Which, boy, this town sure is fickle, aren't they? We love the Louds! They're the best people ever! Dragon attacks the town. We hate the Louds! Get out of here, Louds! We don't like you anymore!
Definitely. Lucille pulling the ghost of the book out of the fire. It just reminds me of fucking Gumball, where Tobias tries whacking Carrie, the ghost girl, with a stick. And she's like, I'm a ghost, you joke of a jock. You just broke a stick into two stick. And he's like, wrong. I turned it into the ghost of a stick. Yeah, pretty fitting here.
Morag then adds that before they left, the Loud family all agreed that she should be crowned Duchess, as Angus and the rest of Loch Loud are shocked at this. She quickly goes along with the ceremony, then has Angus place the crown on her head. The crowd cheers for her, as Angus screams out no, then says how the Louds said no such thing. The town realizes that Angus never tells a lie, as he then asks Morag if what she says is true. She decides to tell the truth and says, guilty as charged, as the crowd all boos at her, and Angus yells how they deserve better than her. Morag says she thought they could do it the easy way, but then realizes that she has to use force, then summons in Layla, who is now extremely large in both senses of the word, because we see some shots of her, and let's just say that feeding her a lot of food definitely helped her out in a lot of ways.
Yeah, most of that was garbage, so screw you, Morag, but, I mean, you can't argue with the results either way.
Layla then breathes fire at the crowd, and then stands up tall. Lucille sees all this, and flies off with the book in tow. We cut back to the boat, where Lenny cries about not being able to say goodbye to Scott, as Lucy says the same about Lucille. Luna points out that Lucille is coming right towards them, as the ghost then tells them that Morag crowned herself Duchess. Lincoln feels terrible for trusting Morag, as Lucille says that Morag is using the Dragonstone to drive everyone away, and there's only one reason she should do that, because, as we said earlier, this is all a scheme of Plankton, because he's going to build the Chum Bucket Mega Bucket, and Lincoln's going to show up, you used me for land development. That wasn't nice.
Yeah, convolutions aside, that would totally be a Plankton move to do, using others to make his whole frickin' business.
Lucille shows them how the Dragonstone mind controls dragons, as Lincoln realizes that's why Layla went haywire. Lisa realizes that Lincoln didn't wreck the village, Morag did, as Lincoln asks what the point is, as he trusted her, and now the citizens will lose their homes. He says that he has to go back and stop her, as his sisters say that they'll help him because he helps all of them. We cut to them all sailing in a rowboat before coming to the town where Layla is destroying the village. Angus is helping everybody escape as Lincoln and his sisters arrive, saying how they have the plan to save the village and stop Morag. We cut to Morag in the bath, laughing about how well her first day went, as she says how she finally has peace and quiet again, and plot twist, she drops the scepter in the water and it instantly stops working. It doesn't happen, but it actually would have been funnier than what does. As she rests, she then hears Lincoln yell, "Let's start the show," as Morag then gets enraged at this. We cut to Rita and Lynn Sr. trying to decipher Lenny's emoji, as Lily points out the rowboat is gone. The two parents panic, trying to move the boat back to Loch Loud. We then cut to Morag riding Layla, before asking where the Louds are as Lincoln turns on spotlights with audience cheering. All of the Loud sisters use their talents in order to distract Morag and Layla, with Luann saying a silly limerick, Luna using her guitar, Lynn Jr. and Lori hitting her with golf balls and footballs, Lenny covering the Dragoness's head with cloth, Lola using her bright teeth to blind the Dragoness with Lisa's glasses, and Lucy seemingly jumps off a building to distract the Dragoness, but before Layla can eat her, Lucille saves her. In a pretty dark joke, Lucy actually says, "I was almost a goner. Oh well, maybe next time."
Lucy is definitely an odd one compared to the bunch, but I very much Lucy. Yeah, I know the title pun. For as far as macabre jokes can go, I honestly think she could have done a whole lot worse. She can certainly do better, and she certainly has in episodes focused on her, but yeah, she does no wrong here, and it's pretty funny more times than not.
Lucy is living her best life, and she regrets every second of it.
It reminds me of, I know this movie came out first, but it reminds me of Lumali in the Mario movie where Bowser is about to drop the prisoners into the lava, and they're like, finally! And after Donkey Kong saves them all, they're just on the floor of the cage like, boo, boo.
Love it.
Classic. We cut to Lynn Sr. and Rita arriving, as they ask where their kids are. Angus says how they're fighting off a giant dragon, as Rita and Angus run off. Lynn Sr. says he's not ready, then puts on a kilt and says, "Now I'm ready." Obviously, though, he's not entirely ready. He has to stop to get those tarts and pretty patties first.
Yeah, he also has to pick up the Islander from Demo Man.
Lincoln manages to get Layla towards him as he lands on the dragon, cheering before realizing where he is. He climbs on the Dragoness's body, as Morag has Layla shoot fire at Lucy and Lucille. The pair fight over the scepter, as Lincoln asks Morag if all of this is about power. Morag yells no, it's about the fact that she'll never see him or his family again after this. Lincoln tries pointing something out to Morag, as the trio then crash through the castle walls, with the family running to see if Lincoln is alright. The family run towards Lincoln, as Morag ends up having Layla attack the Loud family. She yells at them how they should have all left when they had the chance, to which I have to say, man, Morag is really evil. She's gonna kill an infant here, and she doesn't care. So, I'll be honest, she actually is a pretty decent threat as a villainess, not gonna lie.
Yeah, pretty shitty character, but that definitely translates to a very noteworthy and vicious villain. In fact, you really think about it, this entire film, things have been going her way up to this point. She's achieved most of her goals, and yet all she has to do is keep it, and that's where shit ultimately starts to turn toward the good guy's favor. Sucks for you, Morag, but you should have transformed into a dragon when you had the chance.
Lincoln then sees the crown and runs towards Layla as she breathes fire, causing Morag to stop the flame seconds before it hits. Lincoln asks if she wants the crown to go get it as he runs off, with Morag and Layla following closely behind. The rest of the family doesn't know what to do, as Lily crawls from a hole in the castle walls, looking determined. Morag has Layla back Lincoln up against the cliff, laughing at the boy. Lincoln says how, "This isn't the way to get what you want. Maybe you could just tell everybody that you're sorry," as Morag yells how, "You might be right. If I was a fool," and demands the crown from him. Seeing Lily nearby, Lincoln then gets an idea and begins egging on Morag. He says how, "You can have all the crowns in the world, but you'll never be the Duchess," as Morag retorts that he will never be special, just plain old boring Lincoln Loud. Lincoln is also backed up against the edge again, before he says that he's not just Lincoln Loud, he's also a magician, as we then see him using magic tricks to try and distract her in a really cool moment.
For his next trick, he's going to rage paint Kane into... Oh, wait a minute.
Eventually, Morag prepares to use the scepter to have Layla attack him, but the diamond is replaced with a burrito, and man, breakfast burritos must be the Loud House equivalent to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pizza, in that it solves literally every problem.
Same deal with the Krabby Patties, to be fair.
Layla is now back to normal, as Lily throws the diamond in the air, causing the dragoness to melt it with her fire. Morag laments how all she wanted was just a little bit of peace and quiet, before yelling that she will get it, wrestling with Lincoln over the crown before the trio then fall off the cliff. Lincoln grabs a hold of Lily as Layla flies off to save the two children, with Morag dangling in her talons. And one thing to point out, if this was a classic era Disney movie, they would not save Morag. Let's put it that way. She would have not been saved by Layla. Let's put it that way.
Paramount, playing it safe since the early 1900s.
As the rest of the Louds all climb up on the castle wall, Lincoln and Lily ride in on Layla. Layla drops Morag in a bush, as the family all embrace Lincoln and Lily as well as the Dragoness. The rest of Loch Loud then arrives and cheers for the Loud family, as Angus says that it's all thanks to Lincoln, as Layla gives Lincoln the crown. His sisters in the crowd tell him to put it on, as Lincoln then gives a speech saying how he thought that being Duke would make him happy. He notes that when he wore the crown, he was selfish, and realizes that Angus deserves to wear the crown and be the Duke more than he does. The crowd then cheers on Angus despite him being nervous about this, as the rest of the original Loud family show up. Lynn Sr. faints at this, as the town folks ask what'll happen to them, before one asks about Morag.
Yeah, I honestly wholeheartedly agree with Lincoln's decision here. Like, Angus throughout has shown to be dependable and puts the people first instead of himself, and I very much appreciate that. This is all with David Tennant's voice being channeled through the character, and I very much appreciate that. Though the same could not be said if it was Scrooge McDuck.
Before they can do anything, the Dragoness then takes Morag and flies off, as Angus says they have to respect the Dragoness's decision, as she is the Loch Guardian. Layla brings Morag to an abandoned island, as Morag laughs, saying that's what she wanted all along. However, in a pretty cute gag, turns out that their island is inhabited by a bunch of really noisy seals, all of whom look like the Loud family as she screams.
Yeah, they just immediately start exhaling through their nose.
The sisters all cheer for Lincoln for giving away the crown, but then wonder why he said he's not special, as Lincoln says how he wanted to be special like them. The sisters say how he takes care of them every day, and that's the most special thing of all. We then get another song montage of the town all being rebuilt, as Lincoln rides on Layla. We then see the family talking with all their ghost counterparts, before Layla kisses Scott, who then kisses her back. Lincoln hugs Angus, as Angus thanks him for everything. Lincoln says that if he ever needs Duke advice, to call him, as they both say patent pending at the same time and laugh together. The Louds then leave on their ship, with the Scottish flag now having Lincoln's face in the center, as both the citizens and the ghosts all return home.
That is thus far 3 technical lawsuits for our whole thing. Do I hear a 4th?
The movie ends with Bobby, Lenny's boyfriend, finally arriving in Scotland, only to see her leave as he screams in anguish. During the credits, we get a scene of Clyde giving Lincoln Duke cakes, which they both love. We then see various scenes, such as Bobby and Lori reuniting, Lenny and Scott still keeping in touch online, Lincoln finally getting a trophy for doing magic, Morag being rescued from the island, and being forced to caretake after the ghosts, as well as Layla having 3 eggs, and managing to keep Morag in line. And yep, that's it for the Loud House movie. The Loud House is still going on as of this recording, but it seems to be in its final seasons, at least according to everything that I've heard of. It got several other movies, and even a live-action spin-off called The Really Loud House, which is just weird to see, as well as a spin-off about Lincoln's neighbors, the Casa Grandes. And overall, I thought this movie was just average. It's not like the worst Nickelodeon movie, but it's definitely not the best either. It kind of just sits there in a 5, 6 out of 10 zone for me. With that being said, the Dragoness was the best part, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, it's like The Tiger's Apprentice and Raya and the Last Dragon. Mid-movies, Great Dragon being the MVP of the entire movie. Yeah, as far as the mid-comment, that more or less been Paramount's MO. While not all of them are going to be smash hits, I can at least rely on them to be decent time wasters at the best of time. Are they always that way? Sadly, no, if Tiger's Apprentice, again, is anything to go off of. But are they truly that bad? Not really. At least most of them in my case. Anyways, go ahead, Math.
I think this movie's biggest issue is that it needed to pick a lane and stick in it. It either needed to fully embrace trying to copy the Disney Broadway musical thing and be even more fantastical and wild, or it needed to stick with the traditional Loud House thing of being relatively slice of life and down to earth. Trying to do both at the same time just made it so awkward.
For the most part, yeah.
It didn't know whether to pick a lane and stick in it, and kind of to its detriment, but regardless, now it is time for the question of the week, which is, what is your favorite Nickelodeon movie? I'll go first, and I'm sorry, I really did try not to come up with the most obvious answer. You know, I had some other things planned, but I couldn't. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to be the most obvious one in the room at this point because, yeah, it's the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, which not only is probably the best Nickelodeon movie by a wide margin, it's actually also one of the best animated movies of the 2000s, and I stick by that. The animation is absolutely beautiful. The humor is some of the funniest the show has ever had. The story is actually really good, how it raises the stakes for SpongeBob and Patrick, and how he is so afraid of appearing as a kid in that. The voice acting is just so great. The part where Tom Kenny has the meltdown after they lose the paddy wagon to the giant monster, that honestly tears me up a little bit every time. Just how anguished and sad SpongeBob sounds in that moment. And it has so many amazing moments too. It's finally the one where Plankton actually won. He won, and we actually get to see that. All the things of Plankton being stupid and being an idiot and being completely and utterly inept with all of his wacky plans. We actually see what happens when his plans succeed, and yeah, it's pretty terrifying. Turns out Plankton was actually a really big villain all along. He turns out to be really threatening. It has riding the Hasselhoff, which is amazing. It has probably 3 words that all I have to say, and that's pretty much all the reasoning you need to know behind it. Goofy Goober Rock. I'm sorry, that's just amazing right there. And I could go on and on about it with everything, but if you've been alive and you've been on the internet for the past 25 years, you know this movie. You don't need me to explain why this movie is so good. So that's going to be my answer. It's going to be the SpongeBob SquarePants movie for pretty obvious reasons. Angron, what would your pick be?
There are quite a few to choose with. I could go with an oddball like Barnyard for fairly obvious reasons. I could go for something like Nacho Libre, one of Jack Black's earlier roles, which I love it to this day, let's be perfectly honest. Or I could go with something like a nostalgia classic like the Jimmy Neutron movie, which, yeah, I grew up with it. I love it. It's fun. Yeah, some of the CG hasn't exactly aged well compared to some other things, but I still very much like it for what it ultimately does. I think that in recent years, there is one movie that I ultimately am going to go with that 100% is the one that screams Nickelodeon to me, or at the very least, favorite Nickelodeon movie to me. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that it's trying to do what Spider-Verse does, but it does it in such a unique manner and in such a unique style that, not gonna lie, I kind of like it more than Spider-Verse. Is it better than Spider-Verse? In some ways, no. In other ways, yes. But I'm just here for a good time. Like, I'm here to see the Turtles be teens. I'm here to see awesome and interesting ways they tackle classic characters like Rocksteady, Bebop, Mondo Gecko, all the mutants in general. I like that they are just a couple of teens trying to fit in and just trying to, go against people's fears and off-puttedness of mutants or like other people that aren't, human. And in that regard, I think they do this pretty well. It does it in its own way that gets across that the turtles as teens, and as such, they're going to be cringy teens. Like, there's probably a lot of cringy moments in here, but I'll be perfectly honest, we were all cringy teens once too. So this film 100% nails that aspect pretty damn well, all things considered. I also bring this up because of the spin-off series that we might cover later, Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which, oh my gosh, I sorely wish that all the events in those series were canon. I'm just glad this film and that series exist, and I am so ready for that. But yeah, I'm gonna go with TMNT Mutant Mayhem.
Yep, I could definitely see why, because again, Paramount's ownership of the Ninja Turtles have been way better than I think a lot of other people really recall, because they have done so much with these characters and this franchise. It honestly is actually very impressive.
Exactly.
So, let's see, Matt, what would your pick be?
Nickelodeon has had a very long and very weird history with movies. You've got their early works with like Rugrats. You've got some of their more modern stuff with, well, this one, The Loud House. And they've just done everything they can think of, from Paw Patrol to their weird live action stuff, or even stuff you wouldn't think of, like Tintin was technically them. But I am going with what I think is the most original movie Nickelodeon has ever done. Unfortunately, one of their underperforming movies, but it's just so memorable and so beloved. It's one of probably their most popular cult classics, Rango. This is such a weird movie, and everyone missed out on it at first because of the very oddball animation style. But I've actually made the argument that because it went for its own thing and tried to be so original and so outlandish in its style, it actually kind of holds up more, because you will remember Rango. You see an image from that movie, you instantly know that's the movie, rather than the 1,000 other movies that all look the exact same since that time frame. The characters were great. It was a hilarious story. It was a homage to all the classic westerns, the point of having the man with no name show up himself. Everything about it was hilarious, fantastic. Johnny Depp did a great character in that, and you wouldn't know it was him because of just how outlandish it is. Like, everyone just delved into their roles so perfectly that you don't know that they're them. You just see them as these characters. And it is one of my favorite movies because of just how unique it is and how much fun it is having with itself. And we're going to be able to talk about this because of Beans.
Yeah, but no, Rango is a fantastic movie. It's one that the animation behind it, like, I've never been one for photo realism, but it cannot be denied. That is one beautiful looking movie right there. And like you said, just the whole Western story is great. It actually takes celebrity voice acting, and surprise, it actually makes it really, really work so well. And it's just a great movie in general. That is a fantastic pick. So let's see. Shark, what would your pick be?
You kind of took off the words of my mouth, because I was going to say, yeah, the SpongeBob movie is like my favorite, not only like Nickelodeon movie, but among my top favorite animated movies of all time, because, yeah, it's everything you probably could have wished to see the Sponge doing in its big adventure, and I don't know what else to say. You pretty much said everything I would have said, so I think I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I could see why, because, yeah, like I say, what else is there to say? It's the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. It's a good movie, big surprise. But yeah, like I say, I really enjoyed, in general, these episodes, because it's always fun to see what directions it goes with. Now it is time for the patent-pending Dragoness Scale, where we are going to rank Layla. Yeah, this is really interesting because, I mean, design-wise, she is really, really fantastic. I really enjoy what they did with her. I like that we actually get to see her go from like an infant, newly hatched dragoness to a full-fledged adult with children of her own. That is so creative right there. Like, design is perfect, no notes, 10 out of 10. Personality-wise, they actually do more with her than you would think. Like, she's not just, generic giant monster. That we actually get to see why the Loud family would go to love her so much, and how they are shocked when she attacks them because of that. So, overall, I cannot give her a perfect score, only because I feel like maybe she could have been in the movie a little bit more, and the Dragonstone stuff, really, to me, I mean, maybe to you guys it isn't, but to me, it really is just so derivative of How to Train Your Dragon 2. It's like you could have come up with anything else and it would have been better than ripping off that movie. So, with that said, I'm going to have to go with a 9 out of 10, which still is a really good score for her. Angron, what would you give her?
Yeah, I'm also going with a 9. This poor gal, from the moment she came out of her egg, first, she met a very loving family, the Louds, and again, I keep saying this, I know, but she is 100% an Loud in my eyes. I very much want to see her at family reunion. She also gets really treated bad by Morag. Not often, and again, I do agree that she doesn't get used all that much like other things in this movie, but I felt bad for this dragon when Morag decided to use her like that. Like, there are a lot of dragons I feel very sorry for. This definitely makes the top 5 for sure. But yeah, I do agree that she definitely needed more time. She needed a bit more fleshing out, but here's hoping that the series in the future ultimately decides to, do that at some point. At least it's a little nod to recognize that, yeah, the movie isn't perfect, but I'm sure we all love Leela. But yeah, 9 out of 10.
I can definitely see why. So, let's see, Matt, what would you give her?
When I came into this, I was expecting to just give her a 5 because I love the animation style for Loud House, if nothing else. I love the comic book, the old school comic book vibe that they go with for the art direction. And her design from infant to full grown dragon was adorable all the way through. So I thought that was going to be it. She was just going to be our typical giant monster and move on. And first of all, I was shocked at how much time they actually gave her in this movie. I was not expecting a dragon to have this much screen time in a slice of life Loud House movie. And then secondly, they actually did give her a surprisingly large amount of personality. It wasn't like an actual full-blown character arc style personality, but it was like you could see little motions and movements and reactions from her that you would not expect from just a typical giant monster. Again, I'm impressed on both fronts. I debated for a long time, and I don't think I can fully land as high as you guys with a 9, but I did land at a very solid 8, and I really do like this character.
That's fair.
Yep, easy to see why. Let's see, Shark, what would you give her?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff about her, like, the whole thing where we meet her from the moment she hatches from her egg, and we actually see her grow. Like, it's really interesting how every design is, like, different enough. It's not like, oh, it's the same one, just bigger, and maybe, since she grows by eating maybe a bigger belly. No, each phase of her life kind of feels like a different character, or, well, looks like it, because you can still know she's the same character. I like how she could have simply been like because we're in Scotland, it's gonna be a dog, but they're a dragon. But no, there's a reason they make her a dragon. There's stuff with the rock can feel like they copy it from somewhere else. It really helps because it makes her plot relevant. Her attacking the town does help with the villain, does cause like the darkest hour of the movie, so okay, you didn't throw in a dragon just for the sake of throwing in a dragon. There's actually a reason in the story for that. So, design is great. Character, what she shows is both cute and can be menacing when she's evil and all of that. I'm actually gonna go with an 8 as well.
Okay, pretty good to see why. And like I say, one of the surprisingly highest scores for something that, honestly, I did not even expect it to do this well, but easy to see why, because again, she is just a fantastic character in a franchise that really, did not expect to have a dragoness in it, let's say it that way. That's going to be it for this week. If you have any questions, or if you want to see what Morag would look like turned into a dragoness, you can feel free to email us at fierydiscourse@outlook.com. Visit us at Twitter at twitter.com/fierydiscourse. Visit us at Blue Sky at Blue Sky Fiery Discourse. Be sure to subscribe to the Fiery Discourse YouTube channel and subscribe to the playlist. Like and hit the bell icon. Leave a comment. Any all comments are appreciated. Next week, we are going to be talking about the 2022 Moon Knight episode, Gods and Monsters. It's our first, but maybe not last time looking at the MCU on this podcast, and yeah, it'll be really interesting to talk about. So until then, thank you all so much for listening, and take care.
Hey, y'all.
Bye.
Peace out.
Adios. See you all next week.